Let's get into the shutdown showdown. It's going to be a good one. Welcome back into the show. I do want to thank our sponsor today. That's Coinbase. You guys can go out there and start your crypto journey right on Coinbase. And if you're brand new to crypto and you're chasing these moves that are happening in the market right now, Coinbase is where you can do it. Get over there and get some altcoins. Get some Bitcoin or Ethereum. If you use our link, it's going to give you a little bit of a discount and up to $2,000 when you buy your first $50 in crypto. So check it out there. If you haven't checked out the credit card, also do that as well. Use our link. It does help the channel. Let's jump over to Polymarket. This is how many days the federal government could be shut down in 2025 right here. And you can kind of see the leading one right now says 4 to 9. And then you have the 10 to 29 days. That would be the second longest shutdown that we've had really since Trump has been president. Remember his first term he did, I think it was 35 days. So the impact on market, though, that is a little different. One thing I do want to play for you guys is a clip, because this will get into whether or not and what Trump can do during this shutdown. Take a look.
We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like.
Of Commerce also warned lawmakers that the economy is set to take a hit. During the partial government shutdown in 2018-2019, businesses lost about $11 billion. About $3 billion of that was never recovered, and that is according to the Congressional Budget Office numbers the chamber cited. And remember, this time we have a full government shutdown. It's not partial like the last time. And then the other thing, of course, guys, today, as the Senate gets back underway, we saw 3 Democrats yesterday cross lines, vote with Republicans to continue that short-term government funding. A lot of questions whether they will be joined by more colleagues today. Remember, they need to get 60 votes, so they need to get 8 Senate Democrats in total voting for this. We'll see if they get those numbers today.
Remember, that's only going to be a short-term fix. I think this is a longer-term negotiation that continues to play out between Republicans and Democrats. The interesting point is the labor market implications, because this is where it will get a little bit dicier, because this will affect, I think, the economy, and it also could affect markets. Let me go to that clip. Take a look.
If a potential shutdown is resolved by mid-November, we're not going to see any impacts when it comes to fourth quarter growth. Can you put into context for us, is there a buffer timeline when it comes to the potential economic impacts, particularly when we are thinking about the labor market, for example?
He has already fired hundreds of thousands of federal workers, and we're anticipating seeing that show up not in this week's Bureau of Labor Statistics report, but in the following one. That is an example of a Trump administration policy that's going to start dragging on the labor market pretty heavily, but we haven't seen it flow through yet. I think in thinking about the economic impacts, healthcare has been a huge source of job growth. In fact, it's been responsible for about half of the jobs created this year. And those cuts are going to have real economic repercussions.
I'm going to agree with that, because there are a couple of things that I've been saying for a while, and that is jobs to me are still the most important metric that the economy is going to deal with. The other thing that's playing into this is we are already starting to see a slowdown in retail traffic. There's implications on credit, consumer credit. You add this to the fire, and I don't know that they can come back from this. So the BLS data may come in a little bit softer, well, a lot softer. All right, a couple of points here is there's going to be a lack of data that's going to be supplying the industries out there. Economic data is suspended during this shutdown. What that will include is jobless claim, non-farm, CPI, retail sales, all this. Most of this is being factored into a lot of decisions by the Fed as well, even though most of the time, at least on the jobless data, it has been wrong all along for at least the last year. So that one may not hurt them so much. Maybe that'll go forward. But historically, the Fed had shifted a little bit more dovish on average during these shutdowns. So that might be good for markets. I don't necessarily like not having the data, because it will be a window into where the markets could be going in the near future. So flying blind here is not a good thing, in my opinion, when you look at this, even if there are issues where all the data is not as accurate as it can be, because they make their decision on that data right now. How many Fed rate cuts in 2025? It looks like it is going to be 2 more, and that is zooming in on the 3/4 point basis cuts that will occur, most likely one coming the end of October and another in December. Whether or not we get one in January is the question. We'll see how this plays out. But there are good signals here. And just notice that this is, because remember, this was back on the, what was that, the 20th of September. It was at 66%. It dropped down dramatically after we had these dips in the market. And then now, since the government shutdown, it has spiked back up to 68% now for the potential of 2 more rate cuts. So get ready, guys. I think they are coming. It's going to be validated. The question is, how long is this shutdown? There is a lot of disagreement, of course, between the parties. This is all in relationship to immigration, healthcare, all these issues that are talking points. But the real question is, what happens next? Let's take a look at this clip.
It's a good question. I mean, Republicans are pretty insistent that they're not going to cave, and they feel like they have the upper hand. They have passed a clean funding bill to extend funding until November 21st. And we saw last night, Andrew, that 2 more Democrats voted for the clean CR when Republicans put it up. So John Thune is going to go to the floor today and over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and he's going to keep putting up this bill and hope that more Democrats fold. So I think that's what's going to happen. There's not going to be a deal. I mean, the deal that's going to take hold is the deal that's already on the table, which is extend government funding for 7 weeks and have this fight again in 7 weeks, or have some sort of fight over the next 7 weeks. And I'll just add this, what Democrats are demanding here, the extension of these enhanced tax credits for Obamacare, Republicans are not for that. This is not like an appetizing, usually you shut down the government because there's something that you want that you think the other party will be interested in. Here, Republicans just plainly aren't interested in that. So I think this fight is gonna end in the next week or 10 days, and then it's going to be rejoined again over the next 7 weeks.
All right, so as you can see, this is a sticky situation. There's a lot that is going to play out, I think. And again, remember, this is short term, so we could see this revisited again. Now, I don't know what this is going to do in terms of the market, but the likelihood is that we could continue to see a little bit of maybe a flight to safety in terms of risk assets. I think that's what we're seeing right now with Bitcoin at above 117 as this shutdown is occurring. Here's the facts the media is not covering. The average length of a shutdown is around 8 days. The S&P 500 has ended higher 1 year after a shutdown, 86% of the cases. The S&P 500 also posted an average gain of 13% 1 year after the shutdown ends. So it seems and appears that the markets don't necessarily care about this, and at least in direction, unless it is affecting something that is definitive to how the market operates. And I think that actually there may be, and that is Clarity Act and ETFs. Both of those could have some bearing. Now, granted, not on the S&P 500, but definitely on the crypto markets. So be in consideration of that. U.S. government shutdown may signal a crypto market bottom. These are analysts that are kind of coming in on this very topic. And you got to look at it. Here's the shutdowns since 1976. The big one was back in 2018 under Trump, 35 days. That was the biggest one that had been out there. Real question, though, again, how do safe haven assets play into this? Could be everything from Bitcoin, gold, as well as what now will be is some of the key blue chips in terms of altcoins out there as well. We put out a poll. Crypto seems to not really give a F about the shutdown. Higher from here is the number. 85% are pushing on this cycle continuing to act like this cycle, and that is a high October, possibly a very active November. The real question will be, is there more sticky points in November if this shutdown has to be extended into that period of time? If the data worsens, the question is, can the Fed respond faster? Here is a clip that kind of explains that.
A lot depends on what the administration does. If there's permanent firings, if there's not that much back pay that's given back, if you see a longer shutdown with an impact on the economy, I think the front end will move as well, because yes, the market's pricing in the Fed cutting gradually to neutral. But if we see the economic data worsen, if we see the unemployment rate starting to move higher than, say, 4.5, I think the Fed gets a lot more active. And they may not have a lot of data, but they are going to look at, sentiment. They're going to look at other measures of data. And if things are slowing down, I think they can cut faster. If the economic data worsens, I would say that front end has room to decline because the market's going to price in a much more aggressive Fed cutting cycle.
I'm in agreement with that in the sense that if this does have kind of that trickle effect into the job side of things, because remember, jobs will stimulate cost cutting within the economy. People just not spending money, prices will inherently drop, inflation will drop, et cetera. Those kind of things will happen if you see enough of an impact. So key here is if this extends more than a couple of weeks, that could start to get a little bit more dicey. And as Trump even said on that early clip, there's a lot of things that are irreversible that may not be able to be fixed because that income is just lost. So it's not out in the economy. Be on the lookout for that. Fed decision in October, question mark right now. It looks pretty good, 91% for a quarter basis point. As I'll zoom in right there, you guys can kind of see it. Another quarter basis point for October. I anticipate we'll see one in December as well, which simply means we're going to continue to see an upward trend on these markets. Thomas Lee, Mr. Tom Lee, kind of goes in right here on sign of signal strength of markets. This is just showing the second best September in the past 27 years, which is really kind of slightly up. But the point is that Tom's getting is this potentially carries us in to a very active October. Other points that could be bullish are the old guard is continually getting it wrong. Morgan Stanley Wealth Management, they were worried. They were telling clients to get diversified, cut back on U.S. stocks, and boom, of course, here we are at all-time highs on gold, stocks, and Bitcoin getting ready to make an all-time high in 2025. So Morgan Stanley, unfortunately, not in the game. Right here, shorts are getting torched, guys. This is one of the key things that we've seen in the markets, both on Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is why you're seeing the movement we're seeing right now in the markets. And I think we're going to continue to see this up and down movement in October. Many people are calling for an all-time high. I just talked to one analyst this morning, and his all-time high for Bitcoin, he called in October. So this will be interesting to see if Bitcoin accelerates into anywhere between a 125 and a 150 number, which is kind of his window, even though Tom Lee is kind of pointing at that 200K by the end of the year. CZ, of course, has a perfect record for calling dips. And is it dips or is it him simply saying, this is how it's going to play out, guys? And he's right. This is definitely on point. These are somewhat bullish signs. I think in general, people will look at where the market is right now and also some of the key market structure that's happening in terms of altcoins, which I think are playing into this. Avalanche, of course, had a nice move back above 30 bucks. Along with that, one of our partners, SWE, getting ready to announce something huge in DeFi tomorrow. So I'm watching Adenye very closely. Most likely, this is going to end up over in this protocol right here. I believe it's going to be correlated to what's happening in Bluefin. All of these are in the green, too. If you just look at the 1 day and the 7 day change, most of this in terms of TVL has continued to do very well in the SWE ecosystem. Again, one of the top tokens that I think will be a winner for 2025. So if you guys want those and more of them, make sure and subscribe to our Diamond Circle. I put out a Barron Market Edge each week to you. And a lot of times what I'll do is drop in tokens that I think are winning and why, a lot of our research. So make sure and subscribe down below. It's absolutely free. Catch me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.